Since the beginning of CV, we haven't heard very much about how it's impacting the military. So I went over to militarytimes.com and I found an article that came out just yesterday, March 20th, 2020. Number of CV cases among troops jumps more than 31%. So I don't see why it would not impact them. They're living all over the globe, so there's no way it can be avoided. As testing becomes more widespread, the Defense Department is getting a more thorough picture of the impact of CV and how it's impacting the military. As of Friday morning, there are 67 service members battling CV, according to Pentagon data, as well as 15 Department of Defense civilians, 26 dependents, and 16 contractors. That's about a 31% jump for troops. 51 cases were reported yesterday, and more than a 60% jump for dependents over Thursday's total. The military health system had tested more than 1,500 samples as of Thursday. One of the challenges with any infectious disease is when it becomes testable. Interesting. What we found, at least the current information, is a systematic people, even if eventually becoming positive, wouldn't screen positive at all. So they're finding people that are positive and they're still not screening as positive. That's a problem. They said from the beginning the testing has been a major problem. It is making people negative when they are really positive. People that are positive aren't coming up positive. It has been a big, big mess. So it's like anything else, it's going to take them a while to perfect even the testing phase of it. Officials have said that the department has the capacity to test about 9,000 samples a day. Well, that's good because they're doing better than the civilian world. They're barely testing anybody. But delays arrive when swabs have to be flown to one of the military's top labs equipped to analyze them, while the Department of Defense affiliate cases are on the rise. Hospitalizations are not experiencing such a spike. You know what? Speaking of that, New York surged in hospitals yesterday for the first time. So it went off the charts as of Friday. And that's going to happen all around the country. So the military said they are not experiencing that yet. They are currently 7 people under 24-hour care per Pentagon data, one of whom is a service member. So far, 3 troops and 1 contractor have recovered from CV, bringing the total to 128. As the pandemic spreads, the Department of Defense is calling up reservists to man the hospital ships, okay, the Mercy and Comfort, and latter of which to set to deploy to New York in the next couple of weeks. The San Diego base Mercy should deploy the week of March 23rd, officials have said. But there hasn't been an announcement per its destination. Meanwhile, 27 states, actually, it's 28 now. Texas is now part of bringing in the National Guard. So 28 states have activated their local National Guard units to support testing, transportation, logistics, and food delivery in their communities. Active duty troops continue to operate under a near total travel ban with some allowances for local trips outside their homes and installations. The CDC released a report Thursday found that roughly 40% of CV hospitalizations have been necessary for people between the ages of 20 and 54. I find that very interesting. because when it happened in China, the age group was older. When it's happening here, we're getting people in their 20s. And I did hear about someone was 21 years old and they died from it, contradicting both Trump administration and senior defense officials who have said the virus poses relatively low risk to young people. Yes, we are not finding that in the United States. That was more of the case over in China, but here it is hitting the young. So just because it went a certain way in the demographics over in China, don't necessarily mean we're going to match up to it, because we're not. We're not matching up to it at all. I think their age was like 39 all the way up into like 70. Here it's quite a few people in their 20s are getting it. So there are differences. For their part, defense health officials have said they are following CDC guidelines when it comes to social distancing and testing, but not taking any extra precautions based on the relative risk to their age demographics. I think it does give us a reason to pause about the complacency that we as people, in particular, we as Americans have. As Americans, we're not very good at washing our hands. Wow. This is what the military is saying about Americans. We're not very good at covering our mouths. That I do know. I have seen people all throughout my life coughing in public and not covering their mouth. I've seen it. So they are right about that. And they are right about the hand washing, because even when I worked in corporate America, there were women that came in that bathroom and washed their hands, and I've seen some walk out the stall and walk right out the door. That is very true. Lessons learned from this pandemic has the potential to create a cultural change. He had it. We have had bad habits, police said. Despite all the tragedy that's coming from this, it teaches us good habits. Then at least something comes out of it that's good. So that's when the next thing does happen, we're better prepared for it. I have to tell you, that is true. I wash my hands frequently and I'm not even leaving my house, and I just naturally do it. But people in my family always been that way. I would see my mom and dad washing their hands all throughout the day. So it didn't have to be anything going on for us to do it. We just naturally did it. So, ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. They are bringing up a very good point. Americans can do a better job in washing their hands. Hands are suddenly an issue when this CV pops up on the scene. Now everybody's concerned about sanitizers and buying out all the soap and everything. It's just funny because none of these things ever happened before. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.